What's up guys, glad to have you here. Today on NBA Insider, I tell you guys another story, but not just any other story. This is a story that to this day is something that many NBA fans don't know about. This is the story of the mysterious murder of NBA player Lorenzen Wright. Now I know many of you might not know who this player is, but by the end of this video, not only will you feel like you knew him, but you'll feel like solving the mystery yourself. Before I begin this video, I must let you guys know that some of the content in this video might be slightly disturbing, but knowing you guys, I think you'll be able to handle it. So with that being said, let's begin. Welcome to NBA Insider. Lorenzen Wright was born November 4th, 1975. Raised in Oxford, Mississippi, Wright played all levels of basketball in Memphis, from high school to college and even professional. Wright was selected as a third-team All-American as a sophomore at the University of Memphis. After being selected 7th overall by the Los Angeles Clippers in the 1996 NBA draft, Wright moved on to the Atlanta Hawks in 1999. He was traded by the Memphis Grizzlies in 2001 but returned to the Hawks in 2006. Lorenzen Wright stood nearly 7 feet tall and weighed 225 pounds, mostly muscle. Wright played for 5 teams during his 13-year NBA career. He held career averages of 8 points and 6.4 rebounds per game, playing in 793 games including playoffs. That's everything you need to know about Lorenzen as a player. The story begins from here. Lorenzen Wright had recently moved to the Atlanta suburbs, but he was in Memphis on this day as he often was. Most of his friends lived there and most of his family, including his 6 kids, 4 sons and 2 daughters, then ages 4 to 15. This time he had gone back to attend his sister's baby shower. It was July 19th, 2010 and summer was just around the corner. Wright's pro basketball career was going downhill. He was 34 and hadn't played an NBA game in more than a year. His body and skills were slowly declining. But Wright was going to try his best to continue playing the sport, so much so that he had shown interest in the idea of playing overseas, possibly in Israel. But he had recently admitted to his friends that with his basketball career expiring, he'd been feeling kind of lost and that his compass was failing him. On this night, his compass had led him somewhere, but it was not somewhere that he wanted to be. That you could tell from his voice. This is the 911 conversation Lorenzen Wright had before his tragic death. Take a listen.
Georgetown 911, where's your emergency? Hello? Hello? Hello?
At least 9 shots were fired at Wright, likely coming from at least 2 weapons, one small caliber, the other medium caliber. Shots penetrated his head and chest, killing him in seconds. If the words alone weren't bad enough, it was Wright's tone that made the cell phone call to 911 so unsettling. Of course, when the dispatcher called back, there was no answer. The location of the call could not be pinpointed because it came from outside their jurisdiction. As weird as it seems, the dispatcher who picked the phone on the night of Wright's murder did not report anything to a supervisor until 8 days later, a mistake that would later slow down the police investigation and cost the district to pay Wright's family in a legal settlement. Meanwhile, Deborah Marion, Wright's mother, had a feeling something was not right. Not only had she not heard from her son, but her calls and texts to him were going unanswered. On July 22nd, she filed a missing persons report telling police, "When y'all find him, it's not gonna be good." Then she waited, knowing that with each passing day, the chances of good news arriving were very slim. On July 28th, 10 days after the 911 call, police dogs searched a remote wooded area of southeast Memphis, not far from Deborah's home. There, police found Lorenzen Wright's body. His body that once looked very similar to Shaquille O'Neal's now weighed only 57 pounds and was so badly decomposed, mostly due to rain, heat, and animals. His body was so decomposed that there could be no open casket funeral. Strangely enough, Wright was still wearing a gold necklace and an expensive watch, clearly showing that this wasn't a robbery gone wrong. Lorenzen Wright was one of 89 murder victims in Memphis in 2010. Though his date of death is listed when his body was found, he was most likely surely killed on July 19th when that 911 call was placed. So far, 3 questions are answered: the where, the when, and how of Wright's death. But the more important questions, who and why, are still unsolved to this day. 6 years after his death, there's still no suspect, no motive, and no answer. Although he was a McDonald's All-American with a full slate of college scholarship offers, he committed to the University of Memphis. After 2 seasons, he was drafted number 7 by the Clippers in the 1996 NBA draft, becoming a millionaire overnight. Wright was drafted to the Grizzlies in June of 2001. Wright's personality showed in his game. He could take over when necessary, but was perfectly comfortable bringing his energy and athleticism as a rebounder, shot blocker, and hustler. Wright opened a sports bar and spent a small fortune buying Grizzly tickets for family and friends. He spread his wealth around town like crazy, buying homes and cars and paying for friends and relatives to go to college. He bought shoes for high school teams and funded a youth league. Wright saw it as his duty to elevate as many Memphis friends and family members as possible. "I wanted them to share in some of my success," Wright would say, and of course there was plenty of it. Wright played nearly 800 NBA games and earned more than $55 million in salary. By the end though, he was making a mess of his life, as the money and the fame would result in his ruin. Lorenzen would spend enormous amounts of money with little record keeping. By 2010, his $1 million home in Atlanta was being repossessed, as was another house in Memphis. He also had many questionable friendships. According to FBI documents, in 2008, Wright sold a 2008 Mercedes-Benz sedan and a 07 Cadillac Escalade to a man named Bobby Cole. Cole was known throughout Memphis for his connection to Craig Petties, the city's longtime drug kingpin who had ties to the Mexican drug cartel. In 2009, Petties would plead guilty to 19 charges including murder. He is currently serving 9 life sentences in federal prison without the possibility of parole. When Cole was indicted for drug distribution in 2007, he offered to turn over to the DEA vehicles he had purchased with drug money. That included the Mercedes-Benz and Escalade he had purchased from Wright, which were still registered in Wright's name. In 2012, Cole would be sentenced to 8 years for trafficking millions of dollars worth of cocaine into Memphis and millions of dollars in profit back to Mexico. It's unclear from the documents whether Wright knew of Cole's drug trafficking. Wright's marriage wasn't going good for him as well. Him and his wife, Shara Wright, were having a hard time with each other. They would split up and return with each other just to end up splitting up again. Eventually, in February 2010, they finally divorced. Wright was ordered to pay $26,000 a month in child support. He soon fell behind. Following his death, Shara alleged that she was a victim of domestic violence and that during the marriage, Lorenzen was juggling his woman. But she would then state that the violence or the relationship with other women was not what doomed their marriage. Lorenzen Wright's memorial service was an occasion rather than a funeral. Many NBA players, former teammates, and childhood friends attended, including Penny Hardaway, Zach Randolph, and Damon Stoudemire. Even NBA star LeBron James would tweet out his condolences to Wright as they were once teammates during Wright's long career. Following his funeral, Memphis became a city of detectives with everyone out to solve the crime. Many were well aware that the city's homicide unit was overworked and undermanned. Also, many people who had potentially had information were too scared to come forward. In 4 short days, the city had gone from grieving for a favorite son to going back to looking for clues. Wright's neighbors noted that on the night of July 19th, Lorenzen and another unidentified man had a bonfire in the backyard fire pit of Wright's wife's house. "I thought it was strange," one neighbor told reporters, "because it was like one of the hottest days of the year." When word leaked that Wright's body had been found, hundreds of people, including Penny Hardaway, arrived at the crime scene. Wendy Wilson, a former personal assistant to Wright who was in the crowd, urged police to look hard at his ex-wife, that being Shara Wright. Wilson would later claim to have voice recordings of Wright's wife, Shara Wright, threatening Lorenzen if she found him with another woman. Deborah Marion, Wright's mother, said she heard the recordings and the audio files were turned over to the Memphis police. Shara was reportedly $3 million in debt, and speculation in some corners was that this gave her a financial motive in Lorenzen's killing. Her lawyer went public shooting down that theory, telling the New York Daily News that Lorenzen was broke at the time of his death. The investigators questioned Shara initially, a common police practice when a spouse is murdered. She was the last known person to have seen him alive. On July 22nd, Shara told police that Lorenzen had left her home on July 19th with an unknown person in an unknown vehicle. What's more, she said, he departed with cash and a box of drugs, and she overheard him say in a phone call that he was going to flip something for $110,000. He was then picked up by a driver she could not identify. She has since asserted that she never characterized the contents of the box as drugs. Basically, she lied. After the body was found, homicide detectives spent that weekend searching Shara's home, concentrating on the backyard fire pit. Shara was also reportedly called to appear before a grand jury. She was never charged. Another theory many people have is that Wright crossed a crime syndicate and was murdered as a result. Shara told investigators that 6 weeks before her ex-husband's disappearance, 3 men wearing trench coats had visited her home looking for him. There were also the cars that Lorenzen had sold to Bobby Cole, and the fact that Wright's jewelry and the watch were intact on the night of his murder, which suggested that this was a professional hit and not a robbery. There was also the question of the fact that the body was found just a few miles from the Memphis airport, which left people thinking that this could have been a hired assassination in which they would kill Wright and just jump on a plane. Months passed and there was no progress on the case. However, a spark in the case came lately in 2012. As part of his divorce settlement with Shara, Lorenzen had taken out a $1 million life insurance policy to benefit the 6 children. But within months of collecting it, according to public records, the account had decreased to $5. Shara reportedly spent $339,000 on a 4 foreclosed home she placed in the children's name. But her accountant had revealed that she had spent the rest of the death benefits on everything from a $32,000 Escalade to an $11,000 trip to New York City. Herb Wright, Lorenzen's father, launched a legal battle against Shara to oversee his grandkids' inheritance. She counterclaimed that Herb should be removed as an executor of Lorenzen's will. During an interview with Fox Sports, Matt Shelf, a Fox Sports producer, asked Shara,
"Did you have any part in Lorenzen's murder?"
After a pause, she responded,
At first, I'm a wife, then I'm a mother, and then thirdly, I'm an author. The law enforcement should do what's best to find out who's the killer.
At first, I'm a wife, then I'm a mother, and then thirdly, I'm an author. The law enforcement should do what's best to find out who's the killer. Many people found this interview unsettling as she didn't exactly answer the question, almost as if she was dodging it. It was really hard for officials to pinpoint exactly who killed Lorenzen, as Memphis was the third most dangerous city in America at the time, with over 124 murders in the same year of Wright's death. The status of Wright's investigation is unclear. One member of the Memphis police force said that the case is as cold as it gets. But Wright's mother, Deborah, still looks to solve the mystery of her son's death. Her theory in the case centers on both Shara and organized crime. Deborah believes that Shara certainly had a part in her son's death. She also believes that Memphis gangs were involved, and she has vowed to avenge the killing herself. She has gone so far as to prepare a notebook thick with instructions about her funeral and burial. "I am not afraid of death, and I ain't playing," she says. "Some of my family members are scared, but I'm not. You didn't bury anything you birthed into this world," Deborah said, "so you don't know what I feel." However, the one thing she does fear is for her 15-year-old son, Dominique Marion, Lorenzen's half-brother, who is undeniably a baller. He already stands about 6'4" and is starting to fill out his frame. Deborah says that when she watches him play, she's reminded of when she was watching Lorenzen, except this time she is devastated. She would tell him to quit playing so hard. When asked why she would say that, she responded, "I don't want him to be as good as his brother. I don't need another NBA player. I just need a child that goes to work and takes care of his wife and kids, and that's it. I don't need another NBA player because all money is not good money." Lorenzen was an NBA player, a millionaire, knew everyone, and look what happened. He ends up dead and no one knows a thing. To this day, the one question remains: who killed Lorenzen Wright? And that concludes the video. Unfortunately for Deborah and her family, Wright's murder is still unsolved to this day. It's crazy to think that this could happen to such a widely respected figure in the NBA. Just imagine if this had happened to someone like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, because at the time, that's who Lorenzen was to the people of Memphis. He was their Michael Jordan. A really upsetting story nonetheless. Let me know what you guys think really happened to Lorenzen Wright. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Once again, thanks for watching NBA Insider.